Elvis Presley's gyrating hips were deemed so scandalous, he was filmed only from the waist up on national television. Some radio stations flat out refused to play his early records, thinking he had to be a black singer due to his sound. His concerts sometimes defied segregation laws, bringing black and white teens together under one roof even if separated by a rope. He simultaneously topped the pop country A&D rhythm and blues charts in 1956, a feat virtually unheard of at the time. Number 7. He grew up soaking in black music firsthand. Picture this: Tupelo, Mississippi, in the late 1930s and early 1940s. Elvis Aaron Presley grows up dirt poor. His family moves multiple times, often living in predominantly black neighborhoods or areas right on the edge. One such place was a shotgun shack in the Shake Rag community of Tupelo, a vibrant black neighborhood known for its juke joints and blues music. Young Elvis didn't live in a bubble. The sounds of the community were the sounds of his childhood. His family later moved to Memphis, Tennessee, settling in public housing complexes like Lauderdale Courts, which, while segregated, were situated near black neighborhoods, and the legendary Beale Street. Beale Street wasn't just a street. It was the pulsating heart of black culture, music, and commerce in Memphis. Blues. Legends like B.B. King and Howlin Wolf honed their craft there. Elvis, as a teenager, reportedly soaked it all in. He wasn't just hearing blues and R&B on the radio. He was geographically close to its source. He'd peek into clubs. He wasn't old enough to enter, absorbing the raw energy. There's more. Elvis and his family attended the Assembly of God Church. While predominantly white, the Pentecostal services were known for their expressive, musically driven worship, heavily influenced by black gospel traditions. Think passionate singing, clapping movement, a stark contrast to the more reserved services of other white denominations. Elvis himself spoke about sneaking off to attend services at black churches purely for the music. He described the uninhibited singing, the testifying, the emotional release, elements that clearly seeped into his own performance style later on. He wasn't just listening, he was experiencing the feeling behind the music, the call and response, the rhythmic drive. This wasn't academic study. It was immersion. He heard country music on the Grand Ole Opry broadcasts his family listened to, but the blues and gospel sounds were part of his physical environment, absorbed through proximity and direct experience long before he ever stepped into a recording studio. This early organic exposure to black musical forms, right alongside the country and pop sounds of the day, laid a unique foundation. He didn't have to consciously decide to blend genres later. Those sounds were already mingling in his head from his formative years. Number 6. He put black songwriters and their music center stage, even when others didn't. Okay, let's talk about Sun Records in Memphis. Sam Phillips, the legendary producer, famously and reportedly said something along the lines of, "If I could find a white man who had the Negro sound and the Negro feel, I could make $1 billion. Whether he said exactly that or not, the sentiment was real. Mainstream radio and record markets were heavily segregated. Phillips recorded incredible black artists like Howlin Wolf, B.B. King, and Ike Turner, but getting their records played on powerful white pop stations was an uphill battle. Enter Elvis in 1954. His very first commercial single tells the story. On one side, That's All Right, a blues song written and first recorded by Arthur "Big Boy" Crudup, a black blues musician from Mississippi. Elvis and his band spontaneously started jamming on it during a break in a recording session. It wasn't a calculated choice. It was instinct. Phillips heard it, recorded it, and recognized that sound. The flip side. Blue Moon of Kentucky, a bluegrass standard by Bill Monroe. Blues on one side, hillbilly bluegrass on the other, sung by the same white kid. This pairing itself was revolutionary for the time. Elvis didn't stop there. Hound Dog? Originally a raw, powerful R&B hit in 1953 for Willie Mae, Big Mama Thornton, written by the white songwriting duo Jerry Leiber and Mike Stoller, who often wrote in an R&B style. Elvis heard of Freddie Bell and the Bellboys version in Las Vegas and recorded his faster rock and roll take in 1956. It became one of his biggest hits, forever linked to his name. But the song came from the black R&B world, Mystery Train. First recorded by Herman Little Jr. Parker, another black blues artist on the Sun label, in 1953. Elvis covered it in 1955, giving it his rockabilly treatment. Milkau Blues Boogie was a cover of a song by Kokomo Arnold, a black bluesman from the 1930s. Baby, Let's Play House came from Arthur Gunter, another black R&B artist. Good Rockin' Tonight was originally a jump blues hit by Roy Brown in 1947. Now, the complexities. Did Elvis always give verbal credit on stage every night? Probably, not consistently. Did the original artists always receive fair financial compensation compared to Elvis's massive success? That's a whole other often painful discussion involving industry practices of the era. B.U.T. Factually, Elvis recorded these songs. He put them on Kai mode, performed them on national television, and blasted them across radio waves previously closed off to the original black artists' versions. His covers introduced these songs, and by extension the sounds and structures of blues and R&B, to a massive white audience that might never have encountered them otherwise. He wasn't hiding the sources, he was singing their songs, making hits out of them, and demonstrating his deep connection to that music. He brought these black-penned songs directly into the mainstream American living room. Number 5. His records crashed through radio's racial walls. In the 1950s, American radio was like a segregated town. You had your pop stations playing Perry Como, Patti Page, mostly white artists for a white audience. You had your country and western stations playing Hank Williams, Kitty Wells, for a rural and southern white audience. And you had your rhythm and blues R&B stations playing Fats, Domino, Chuck Berry, Little Richard, Muddy Waters, primarily for black audiences. There wasn't much crossover. Record charts reflected this. Billboard had separate pop country and R&B charts. Then came Elvis. When That's All Right was first played by Memphis DJ Dewey Phillips, no relation to Sam, on his Red, Hot and Blue show in 1954, a show known for playing R&B, the phone lines lit up. Listeners loved it. Many reportedly called in asking who the black singer was. When Phillips revealed Elvis was white and a graduate of Hume's High, many were shocked. The sound was so steeped in blues and R&B traditions that people naturally assumed the singer was black. This initial confusion was telling. but it went way beyond local Memphis radio. As Elvis's records exploded nationally, they didn't just stick to one chart. Take 1956, his breakout year with RCA Records. The double-sided monster hit, Hound Dog, Don't Be Cruel. It hit #1 on the Billboard Pop chart. It hit #1 on the Billboard Country and Western chart. It hit #1 on the Billboard R and B chart. LATTHEPS This was practically unheard of. It wasn't just a pop hit, or a country hit, or an R&B hit, it was all of them. Other hits achieved similar feats. Heartbreak Hotel, All Shook Up, Jailhouse Rock, Kank, Let Me Be Your Teddy Bear. They all charted significantly on pop, country, and R&B lists. What did this mean? It meant black kids and white kids, city dwellers and country folk, north and south, were often listening to and buying the same records. And B stations played Elvis. Pop stations played Elvis. Country stations played Elvis. His music wasn't confined to one demographic box. On black radio stations might initially play him thinking he fit their format, discover he was white, but keep playing him because the demand was there. White teenagers heard him on pop radio and were drawn to a sound heavily infused with black musical elements they might not have sought out otherwise. The charts proved it. Elvis's records were being bought and enjoyed across the racial and genre lines defined by the music industry. He wasn't just crossing over, he was obliterating the traditional boundaries on the airwaves and sales charts. #4. His moves showed white America black performance styles. Elvis didn't just sound different, he moved different. Before Elvis exploded onto the national scene via television in 1956, mainstream white pop singers usually just stood relatively still and sang. Think Frank Sinatra or Perry Como, smooth, controlled, minimal movement. Then Elvis appeared on shows like Milton Berle's, Steve Allen's, and Ed Sullivan's. And he wasn't standing still. He swiveled his hips. He shook his legs, that famous rubber legs move. He sneered. He dropped to his knees. He used the microphone stand as a prop, almost a dance partner. He radiated a raw, uninhibited energy that was electrifying to teenagers and deeply unsettling to many adults and cultural gatekeepers. Where did these moves come from? While some elements were unique, Elvis, much of his stage presence drew heavily from performance styles common in black entertainment, particularly in blues, R&B, and gospel settings. Performers on Beale Street, singers in Pentecostal churches, traveling tent show entertainers. These traditions often involved dynamic, expressive, and sometimes sexually suggestive movements that were part of the performance. Little Richard, Chuck Berry, Bo Diddley, Jackie Wilson, many black performers incorporated energetic stagecraft. Elvis had likely witnessed these styles firsthand during his youth in Memphis, and perhaps through observing black performers. When he brought similar gyrations and energy to national television broadcast directly into white middle-class living rooms, it was a shockwave. Critics called it vulgar, suggestive, animalistic, coded language often used to denigrate black cultural expression. The infamous Ed Sullivan Show appearance on January 6, 1957, where Elvis was filmed only from the waist up, was a direct reaction to the moral panic his hip movements had caused on previous shows. They literally tried to censor his lower body. But the censorship backfired. It only amplified the mystique and the rebellion. White teenagers saw it, loved it, and started imitating it. Elvis, consciously or not, became a conduit, translating the physicality and energy common in black performance spaces for a massive, mainstream white audience. He didn't invent the moves, but he was the one who put them on the biggest stage imaginable at the time. He visually demonstrated a style of performance rooted in black culture, making it visible and desirable to a generation of young white Americans, further blurring cultural lines through physical expression. Number 3. His concerts became early, if imperfect, integrated spaces. The American South in the 1950s was deeply segregated by Jim Crow laws. Public spaces, schools, buses, restaurants, water fountains, and yes, concert halls were rigidly separated by race. Black and white citizens were legally forbidden from mixing in most public venues. Elvis's live performances, especially in the early days 1954 to 1956, sometimes pushed against these boundaries, even if unintentionally at first. His music, drawing heavily from black traditions and being played on R&B radio, naturally attracted black teenagers as well as white ones. In some southern towns, an Elvis show might be one of the very first large-scale events that brought both black and white young people together in the same physical location to share a common interest. Now, let's be clear. This wasn't usually full integration as we think of it today. Often, promoters enforced segregation rules. There might be separate entrances. Black and T might be relegated to the balcony, or a specific section, sometimes roped off from the white audience on the main floor. Photos and accounts from the time document these divisions. For example, a widely circulated photo from a May 1956 performance at the University of Dayton Fieldhouse shows black fans enjoying the show from a designated area. Another account from a 1955 show in Florida mentions a rope separating the black and white sections of the audience. However, the very presence of both black and white fans under the same roof, reacting to the same music, was significant in the context of the rigidly segregated South. There are anecdotal reports of the sheer energy of the music and performance, sometimes causing those ropes to be ignored or the designated sections to become less distinct as caught-up fans surged towards the stage. Police were often present at these shows, not just for crowd control, but specifically to enforce segregation. Clashes sometimes occurred. A July 1956 show in Memphis reportedly had separate black and white nights initially scheduled, but the demand led to integrated, though sectioned, seating arrangements. Even with the ropes and designated sections, these concerts created shared moments. Black and white teenagers were breathing the same air, hearing the same sounds, feeling the same excitement generated by Elvis's performance. They were witnessing each other's enthusiasm for this new, electrifying music that defied easy categorization. In a society built on keeping races apart, these concerts, however imperfectly managed, represented cracks in the wall. They provided a glimpse, however fleeting, of a shared cultural experience that transcended the enforced racial divides of the era. It was a physical manifestation of the crossover appeal already happening on the radio charts. Number 2. He forged rock and roll by smashing genres together. Before Elvis, the musical landscape was more compartmentalized. You had pop, country, blues, R&B, gospel. Artists generally stayed within their designated genre lanes. Elvis, particularly, in his early Sun Records recordings, didn't just cross lanes. He drove right over the lines, mixing everything up in a way that became the blueprint for rock and roll and rockabilly. Think back to that first single, Arthur Crudup's blues song. That's all right on one side, Bill Monroe's bluegrass anthem, Blue Moon of Kentucky, on the other. Elvis didn't sing That's All Right exactly like Crudup. He sped it up, infused it with a nervous energy, and backed it with Scotty Moore's country-inflected guitar licks and Bill Black's slapping upright bass, a technique common in both blues and country. He took Monroe's slow, mournful waltz, Blue Moon of Kentucky, and transformed it into an upbeat, jumpy rocker, adding hiccups and a driving beat. Sam Phillips knew this fusion was unique. This blending continued through his Sun sessions, 1954 to 1955. He took blues songs like Roy Brown's Good Rockin' Tonight and Junior Parker's Mystery Train and injected them with country rhythms and vocal stylings. He took country songs like Kokomo, Arnold's Milk Cow Blues Boogie. Though Arnold was a bluesman, the song had country appeal and gave them a bluesy feel and rockabilly energy. It wasn't just covering songs from different genres, it was fusing their elements within the songs themselves. Scotty Moore's guitar playing, influenced by country pickers like Chet Atkins but also incorporating bluesy bends and riffs, was crucial to this blend. Bill Black's bass provided a rhythmic anchor that could swing both country and R&B. Elvis's voice itself shifted effortlessly between country twang, bluesy shouts, and gospel fervor. When he moved to RCA in 1956, the palette expanded further. He recorded straight pop ballads, Love Me Tender, Heartbreak Hotel Commodity, written by Make-a Born Axton and Tommy Durden, had a sparse, bluesy structure and feel unlike typical pop songs of the day. Hound Dog was R&B, turned into rock and roll. All Shook Up, written by Otis Blackwell, a Black Walker who also wrote hits like Great Balls of Fire and Fever, had an irresistible R&B shuffle rhythm combined with Elvis's rockabilly energy. Jailhouse Rock, Leiber Stoller, was pure rock and roll with blues and pop elements. He also never abandoned gospel music. Throughout his career, he recorded numerous gospel albums, like His Hand in Mine and How Great Thou Art, winning Grammy Awards for them. This wasn't a separate compartment. His feel for gospel phrasing and harmony infused his secular recordings too. This constant mixing, blues structures, country instrumentation, gospel vocal techniques, R&B rhythms, pop melodies, wasn't just eclectic, it was foundational. Elvis demonstrated that these supposedly separate American musical traditions could not only coexist, but could be combined to create something new, exciting, and incredibly popular. This genre-smashing approach was the very essence of early rock and roll, a sound built from the bricks of previously divided musical cultures. Number 1. His sound became a shared global language. Elvis wasn't just an American phenomenon. He was a global earthquake. His music, rooted in the American South's blend of black and white traditions, resonated far beyond U.S. borders, creating a shared cultural touchstone for millions of people from vastly different backgrounds and nations. Starting in 1956, his records were just topping charts in the U.S. They were hitting number 1 in the United Kingdom, Canada, Australia, Germany, Italy, South Africa, and many other countries. His movies, filled with his music, were shown in cinemas worldwide. Teenagers from London to Tokyo, from Sydney to Stockholm, were hearing this new sound, rock and roll, often for the first time through Elvis Presley. Think about the impact. In post-war Britain, still dealing with rationing and austerity, Elvis represented American vibrancy, rebellion, and modernity. In Germany, divided by the Cold War, his music offered an escape and a connection to Western youth culture. In Japan, undergoing massive cultural shifts, he represented a new kind of cool. His records were smuggled into the Soviet Union, becoming symbols of forbidden Western culture. This global reach meant that young people across diverse cultures, different languages, different political systems, different social norms were united by a shared experience, listening to Elvis Presley. A kid in Liverpool, like John Lennon, famously, hearing Heartbreak Hotel, might have felt the same jolt of excitement as a kid in Memphis or Melbourne. This music, born from the specific cultural melting pot of the American South, transcended its origins. The Aloha from Hawaii via satellite concert in 1973 is a prime example. Broadcast live via satellite to over 40 countries across Asia and Oceania, and later shown in delayed broadcasts in Europe and the Americas. It reached an estimated audience of over 1 billion viewers. Though figures vary, the scale was unprecedented for a single entertainer. People in Japan, South Korea, Thailand, Australia, the Philippines, and eventually across Europe and the Americas watched the same concert, heard the same songs, a mix of rock pop, gospel country and blues interpretations, performed by the same man. This global saturation didn't necessarily erase cultural differences, but it created a massive, shared frame of reference. Whether you were black or white in America, working class or middle class in Britain, living under communism or capitalism, you might know the words to Hound Dog or feel the emotion in Can't Help Falling in Love. Elvis's music, by becoming a worldwide phenomenon, demonstrated that the sounds forged in the specific context of American racial and cultural interplay possessed a universal appeal. It provided a common soundtrack, a shared cultural currency that people from vastly different walks of life could understand and connect with, purely through the power of the music itself.